Well, this week we'll be taking the noir again and giving you a great 1985 film, another film from the 80s, directed by one of the great directors that has given some of the best cinematography in chase scenes in history. That's William Friedkin. And again, a movie that has a great soundtrack, a great cast, very well shot. And even in our On My Shelf segment, we'll be discussing one of the most famous films as well, that is also, which is touted to this film we'll be discussing, The Art of the Chase. Then, of course, we'll be checking in with what's going on in the news in our Fast Five segment. We'll also check in with you, the viewers, see what you are talking about this week. And we'll check in with MeTV and Spanguli and what is the movie of the week. Here we go for another edition at the end of September of Saturday Pre-Flight. And it starts right now. Well, welcome back. To another edition of Saturday Pre-Flight, your jump point to the weekend, to great classics, Svengoolie, great classic horror, great classic films, action, adventure, science fiction, all of that genre, including Saturday morning cartoons. Well, look, we're about a week away from October. Wow, we got Halloween around the corner. And, of course, before we get really started in here, we do have some Halloween episodes planned, so do tune into that. Remember, we're here every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, on Q2Cast TV, on all your social media platforms, BitChute, Odyssey, and, of course, right now on YouTube. So before we get started, hey, what's going on in the world? So here we are. Let's kick it off with the Fast Five.
Hey, Brock, I want to give you my story. People love serial killers.
Please, why me?
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine.
Do please let me investigate this case with you.
Yes, of course. I just need to see some form of identification before we proceed.
Kira, とっておきのサラダ作っとくからな。
愛しているよ。リアチ行きます。
待ってた。ダバオに7人からの閣僚がおねんねしているってのがアホなんだよ。
反地球連邦政府組織マフティ。
我々は現在の地球連邦政府に反省を促すためにやむを得ず攻撃をした。
するな。マリ、落ち着いて。マジになっちゃダメ。なんだよ。何？早すぎるわよ。シーコ？
The mid-'80s. Some great stuff out of that time period. I was still in school at the time. My broadcast career was just getting started. Yes, that's right. I was in broadcasting even back then. And let me tell you, there was some great films in the box office at that time period. We had an era of where we were traveling back in time, back into the future. Val Kilmer was being a genius in the movie Real Genius. Tom Cruise in an underrated fantasy film with Tim Curry playing Darkness, which I think is one of the most greatest roles he's ever done on there. Romero had his third incarnation of his zombie flicks, Day of the Dead. We also had many low-budget films, stuff as like The Stuff, Zone Troopers, Creature, Explorers. We also got a hold of a unusual gentleman by the name of Pee Wee Herman, who had his own big adventure. Chuck Norris was also big with another action star, Sho Kosugi. Arnold was created one of his big iconic movies, which basically doesn't get talked about too much. Mad Max was back again, and some of the best zombie flicks in history, Return of the Living Dead, and many others that came out at that time period, and a lot of other films that you would not believe was made in that time period. But not to get too far into the 80s as far as the films themselves, there's one that does stand out a bit on there, and it is hands down like a great noir for the 80s. If I tell you the name William Peterson, what comes to mind? Most people think, oh, CSI. Yeah, that's right, CSI on there. But Peterson had a start. He had to start in a great film, which has a great cast and one hell of a kick soundtrack, which I do own on CD itself and does play in my phone on a constant basis. The movie is called To Live and Die in L.A. It's directed by one of the great directors of all time, the man who brought us The French Connection, William Friedkin. Stars William Peterson, William Dafoe, John Pankow, Deborah Ferrer, John Turturro, Darlene Fluger, Dean Stockwell, Steve James, Robert Downey Sr., and also this sexy Jane Leeves as well. She had a small part in this, but wow. She had a sexy part in this movie itself. The movie itself, the plot, the main characters played by Peterson and Pankow are United Secret Service agents assigned to the counterfeiting issue, which, if you remember from the 80s, if you're familiar with the 80s, there was a major problem with counterfeiting. I mean, even before the computer era kicked in heavy duty, there were those out there that were counterfeiting very easily. And this film showed one way that it was able to be done from an artistic point of view. Now, the main character, Peterson, he tends to have reckless behavior. What happens is his former partner, 3 days out from retirement, is murdered by the main villain in this, played by William Dafoe, who plays Eric Rick Masters, who is an artist in some ways and a counterfeiter in other ways. And just like in the French Connection, this is a chase to bring down a major counterfeiter, and the things that two Secret Service agents have to do to take this guy down. Some things that cross the line in itself. Everything from certain stings to extortion to chases that basically are totally insane. I mean, there is a car chase on the highways that basically, wow. And the thing about it is, this is formed by the group Wang Chung, which, like I said, I own the soundtrack to this. It is very well done. It fits everywhere for an 80s film. You know, when you watch like movies like TV series like Miami Vice, and you hear how the music and everything blends in so nicely, and then that's what made that great. That's the same thing here in To Live and Die in L.A. And basically, each character fends very well. Now, like I said, Jane Leeves is in this. If you're not familiar with Jane Leeves, she has a very small part in this movie. It's one of her early roles. In fact, I think she was just over from overseas working with Benny Hill. And she played Daphne Moon, of course, on the sitcom Frasier. She plays a, how can we put this? Sort of love interest to another female character in the film itself, who happens to be William Dafoe's girlfriend, played by Deborah Frew in this film, which I won't give you the ending on that. No spoilers on that one. You need to see this. From an artistic point of view, which there is artwork in this movie, because Dafoe character is an artist who tends to create some beautiful art and then burns it. He's sort of a perfectionist in certain ways. And to see how Steve James has been in a lot of action films, ninja films, and stuff like that throughout the years. Of course, you know him in I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. Dean Stockwell, who was in Quantum Leap, is also in this film as well. He plays a lawyer on there. And there are many other unusual characters in this film. There are some unusual cinematography in here, which is done very well. Scenes where it's cutaway scenes where, normally when you have a scene where you're driving to a destination, some of the stuff that's shot here is done in an artistic way, sort of not to bore. Yeah, that's the one thing, is that when you have someone drive, like you're driving to a destination, you see the quick pick on there. Why not make it more adventurous and artistic? And William Friedkin was basically gave a premise to this. He added to the point where basically, the what we call the cutaway was done very well, and there are some cutaway scenes where some unusual face paintings and the music from Wang Chung sounds in the background adds to the premise of what is going on. I mean, there is a whole segment with the main score as he's printing the money, and it just adds to it. It just brings it out. And it's amazing how you could look at this and say, why hasn't this movie been talked about a lot more? Why hasn't this film been in film school? It's like I said, like The Third Man. Why aren't some of these movies, these well-made movies, are in film school today? They talk about Spielberg. They talk about Lucas. They talk about other, filmmakers that are, they're great filmmakers. But there are others in history that, for an action film to be this way, this neo-noir, to be this way. Because, one thing when you hear an action film these days from a lot of the people in the industry that says it always ends the same. It ends up with the explosion. It ends up with, the guy jumping off the roof and stuff like that. Yeah, there is an explosion in this movie, but the way it's done is done properly. That makes it part of this film. Now, understand, if you own the DVD version, as I do, and the Blu-ray, there is, in a way, spoilers, an alternate ending, which turns out to be a bit more of a happier ending to the film, which in a way, I would say, how the fuck were they going to get away with that one? And when you see the film, you'll understand why and what happens to Pankow and Peterson at the end of this film. And how could they be in this situation at the end of the movie? Because basically, no way that this could happen. No way. The way that this ends, no way that. The way this one ends properly. And let me tell you something. Sit through the credits. The credits is phenomenally shot. You know, one thing is you always have credits and they go through, you know, they have a little bit of... I think there is a remaster being made. I think they're doing a remaster. I have to look that one up. But there is one, I believe, being done. Get the Blu-ray. I don't know. 4K may do it well. I don't know how much justice it would do on 4K. You know, because some movies will work out well in 4K. Other movies, no, not well in 4K. It has to be done right. The money has to be spent. So, To Live and Die in LA, great film, great action, great premise, great music, great director, great cinematography. A must-see in my opinion. And if you're in film school, this is one you have to look at from a professional point of view. So let's move on to the next segment on there. You know, well, off my video shelf this week is that we're bringing another part of the William Friedkin filmography, The French Connection, 1971. You know, we discussed To Live and Die in LA, what such a great car chase scene in the movie. French Connection has another one of the best in history. The film stars Gene Hackman as Popeye Doyle, Roy Scheider as Cloudy, Ferdinand Ray as Charmer, Tony LeBlanco, and Marcel Beaufy. Now, there was a sequel which was not so great. It was a good movie. Took the connection elsewhere, but it did not have the impact of the original. It won the original film won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Adaptation. It was also nominated for Best Supporting, Best Cinematography, Best Sound Mixing, and also received a Golden Globe as well. And nomination at the Writers Guild of America, Edgar Award. I mean, this has won so many awards. It is one of the greatest films to come out of the 70s. Action, great thrill. It's a great crime thriller. And like I said, one of the great chase scenes in history on there. I mean, you could tout back so many on there. You know, you look at this and you say, wow. The main premise of the movie, of course, actually, it is a massive shipment of heroin is arriving out of from Marseille. Hackman learns of this and goes into an investigation mode. Basically, it turns into just a chase of time, trying to catch everybody involved on here. I mean, it is so well done. It is so well done. And like I said, you know, your primary, your secondary. Last week we talked about how good secondary actors in movies when we talked about the Third Man. Here we got another movie of the same potential. Everybody plays this very well. I'm so sorry that the sequel wasn't as good as the original. It's still a watch. Don't get me wrong. It's still a good movie. But the oomph that the French Connection had on there, it just really, and the thing about it is, in 2005, the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress has made this culturally historical. So basically, it has been preserved in history. This film is one of several great movies in history that will be preserved and kept, safe You know, one thing is make sure you get to see this. If you haven't seen The French Connection, why haven't you seen this? I see a lot of YouTubers today that they're doing, young YouTubers, that they're making watch parties, or they're watching certain films that they've never seen before. And I'm so surprised that, you know, they've seen all these crappy movies today. And then I listen to them, and I've been watching a lot of them out there. And there's some good ones out there, YouTubers out there that they're watching some good films from the era below the 1990s. If we can get some of them to get into the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, you know, that would be significant to do, because there are so many great films on there. Here's a bit of a quiz for you. In 1986, a TV version of the character Popeye Doyle was created, starring a very versatile actor. Starred in movies like Cruisin', Dogs of War, Adventures of Ford Fairlane, both Wayne's World, Bone Collector. Also starred in several TV series, including one iconic role which gave him 256 episodes, and much later in time had another series which had about the same amount of episodes. A fantastic actor, well-rounded. If you haven't figured it out who it is, former star of Married with Children and Modern Family, Ed O'Neill. That's right, folks. Ed O'Neill starred in a TV version of Popeye Doyle. Put that in your list if you could find that copy. Last I saw of it, it was on VHS. You were able to find that. It's somewhere around. But hey, it's interesting that you get stuff like this, that you can basically see where it's at. William Friedkin had nothing to do with this version. It was written by Richard Diello and directed by Peter Levin. Also, in the film itself, it was the first film by another actor in this film you're familiar with, who's been in the Oscar nomination, who has played an iconic role in the Spider-Man universe. J.K. Simmons has a part in this movie, and it's been touted to one of his earliest roles in his career. So catch the original French Connection 71. Get it on DVD, get it on Blu-ray. I believe there is a Blu-ray version out there. In fact, I believe you can get both original movies on Blu-ray itself, the French Connection 1 and 2, and I do recommend on that. And I also do recommend To Live and Die in L.A. You know, as I said before, I own the soundtrack. Soundtrack's great. The movie's great. And I said before, it does have an alternate ending on that movie as well, which is like, why? If you heard that, back it up to see what I said before, if you only got to this point, or if you're watching this on a slice of pre-flight. But like I said, overall, this movie is phenomenal and should be cherished. Popeye Doyle is a good movie. With Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill plays it pretty well. Not the greatest script in the world, but it is done well to the honor of the French Connection. So that's what's on my video shelf this week. Well, we reached one of the most important parts of the show. Your comments. What are you thinking this week? How are you feeling? Some of these comments are a little backdated, but it's okay. We're now catching up, and we're glad to bring them out to you. And thank you for those of you who have commented on this on all of our social media platforms. We're trying to get to everyone. When you don't have a staff that'll handle your social media, it's hard. You only have someone that's part-time, and we're trying to get to everybody. And we promise we'll do our best to get to everybody on there. So let's start off with, and continuing a little bit from last week's on the Kevin Smith video, Mike Phillips says, I don't understand why Kevin Smith did a He-Man series when he was never a He-Man fan. This is what happens in Hollywood. This is in agreements that most people don't understand that the people they hire for these movies don't understand the subjects. But, you could be someone that don't understand the subject matter, but if you do the research, you may find yourself something that you might enjoy and might be able to put out a better quality of the show or movie. Depends on what it is. Do your research. That's why they used to hire people to research these things out. When you look on the credits, look at the credits carefully, because there are people who sit there that used to research all these things out. And you used to hear from a lot of actors, actresses, directors. They says, well, I've never read the product before, but before I started this project, I did my due diligence and research. You heard that from the star of Alita Battle Angel. She never read any of the Alita Battle Angel, but before she started reading and became an avid fan, so much that she was nerd gassing when the creator showed up to the set. Goes to show you, this is how you make good movies. Do your research. Now, in that same line, Tactics 88, it's the same reason why no one can understand why Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, and Kathleen Kennedy were put in charge of Star Wars if they never respect George Lucas's work. That's correct. If you hated the work, if you're a person that you're a director, producer, and you hated the work, why are you on this project? An artist, if an artist is going to paint something, he has to have the love to paint what he wants on the screen on there. But if it's something that, he disapproves of, and like we showed on the Live and Die in LA, William Dafoe was burning his paintings. And that's what they're doing. They're burning the paintings. They're burning the movies. Thank you, Tactics 88. Now, getting away from all the He-Man stuff, Lynn Hurd, they should use some of the original cast in the movie. And we're talking about the Waltons. And I don't know if she's talking about the 44, but I think she's talking about the Waltons. CW is going to do a Waltons movie. If you haven't realized that, if you haven't seen the video, you can go back to it. Lynn, just to let you know, with the exception of the young kids, most of the cast is dead. John Boy will be returning and doing narration in this, supposedly. I haven't heard anything since then, and I'm going to have to send my feelers out and talk to a couple people around that are close around that network and see what they're saying right now at the moment, what's going on. Because we've already seen Dark Shadows get canceled. The Powerpuff Girls is now delayed. You've had another one of the actresses has left, so they're missing one actress, so they're going to have to start everything from scratch again. So thank you again, Lynn Hurd. Chow Lima Cadalis, Hasbro, anyone? Well, we're not certain what that means, but Legendary Pictures up for sale. If you're expecting Hasbro to buy them, no. That, it's a rumor. It's still running around that Legendary could be up on there, and this is what's happening across the board. And all these bigger companies are buying the smaller ones, or they're absorbing other companies. Which, when is the government going to get in on this? When are they going to start saying, "Listen, stop this"? They're already looking at the MGM1 and Amazon acquisition. That may not happen, but the Funimations and Crunchyroll happened. What happened there? That should have not. That should not have occurred. That should have gone through the processes. But then again, nothing really happened. Thank you again. Choose Topher, and he's talking about the Silverhawks reboot. Massive fan from when it was launched. Kind of concerned after Master of the Universe Revelations. Thundar is my favorite. Thundar is one of my favorites. I know a lot of times they wanted to do a live action version of it or a reboot. The problem is, and you look at to what they're saying, radical adaptation, made for the modern era. Those are words that you have to be afraid of. I mean, because basically if you hear those words, that means the show is not going to be right. It's not going to be, or the movie's not going to be right. They're not going to be taking the original concept and bringing it forward. Or they don't have the full rights to, in the case of Mattel. Mattel had minus 25%. Most of it is in the corner of Universal Corp right now and DreamWorks. Because in 2 years, Mattel loses all the rights to Masters of the Universe. That's all the rights. That means Universal can now go to other companies and manufacture the toys and stuff like that and make other productions. Now, understand, they were the ones responsible for the She-Ra reboot, and that was horrible in itself. We hope that they would do better, but the way things are looking, I don't feel it anytime soon. Deborah Thompson chimes in on RIP Star Trek video we did. What a heartfelt expression of a tribute to the passing of Star Trek. We grew up with this show. What a terrible shame. They are destroying a true legacy in the fabric of our lives. What a pity. Miss Thompson, I totally agree with you on that. You know, it was a great show, great, series, great movies. You know, when it got after Enterprise, that's when everything fell apart. That's when it totally fell apart. Thank you again. Vegas Mark 725, welcome back on that one. Wah, wah, wah. Now, I don't know if you're saying wah, wah, wah yourself or wah, wah, wah that everybody's crying about this, but nonetheless, RIP Star Trek. Reich Paprika. Spoiler, Teela the Sorceress will scissor the new champion. Thank you, Reich Paprika. Thank you on that. Chris Dolan. Welcome back, Chris. I watched the new Mobile Suit Gundam on Netflix. It is a good movie. Yes, it is. Hathaway is excellent. If you have not seen this movie, if you have not seen Mobile Suit Gundam, I know you might not like Netflix. I would say go out to the high seas or buy the Blu-ray. I think the Blu-ray is already coming out. It is well done. The sequel is coming. The tentative name right now is Son of Bright, is the tentative name right now that's going around. It left off really good. If the sequel is any good, then we're going to have a really good series out of this one, similar to like the Neon Genesis Evangelion rebuild movies, which were fantastic. I went through the whole thing again and the new movie over the vacation, and I loved them. I loved the final movie, Twice Upon 3.0 plus 1.0. Fantastic movie. Thank you again, Chris. David Beckham. Any relation? This is concerning one of our film over our vacation. The Night Comes For Us review. Story 3 out of 10. Fight 1 million out of 10. He's like 9. It's over 9,000. Great film. Yeah, the story. It's a good story. It's not top line, but hey, listen, for an action flick of this nature coming over from overseas in Asia, it is well worth the watch. Thank you again, David. Amiga 501. The other day, I found a manga title about a high school girl learning about the philosophy of satire, a 20th century French philosopher, and applying it to her everyday life. She learns it from a talking dog. What the fuck, at many levels. There we go. That was the Chuck Dixon slams comic book industry and praises manga. As Chuck says, there is a manga and anime out there for everyone. We've said this day in, day out. We've done many videos on this. You got you have sports, golf, tennis, bowling. You got so many out there. Baseball. You got stuff for the LGBT community. You've got the adult material type. And we're talking about the hentai part of it. There are so many stories. We got comedy, we got romance, slice of life. There's so much out there. See, this is why manga and anime is doing so well over here. You know, if you're a person that says, well, it's just cartoons and comic books and stuff like that, pick up one. Pick up one and just read through it, or take in an anime. Read into some of the plot lines on this. You might find something you enjoy. You know, more and more time, you probably will find something. And then you'll like it and you might move on to something else. There's plenty out there for everyone. And this is what the comic book industry should have been. This is what they should have been. They started out that way and then died out because of all the politics and the activism, all the people they've been hiring that are just no good for the industry. Thank you again, Amiga. Evola Sensei 14, I love Mighty Pecan Man. Yes, that's for the Shaw Brothers box set. That's right, folks. Shaw Brothers is coming out with a box set. If you didn't catch the video, at the end of this year, it's box set number 1. It's going to have some of the big favorites. The Mighty Pecan Man, that 8 movie is one of them. Of course, the Deadly Venoms is another one, and a bunch of others. And if it does very well, you know they're going to do a second, third, fourth, because Shaw Brother volumes are all over the place. There are many different movies, you know, that people have enjoyed throughout the years on that. Thank you again, Evola. Vegas Mark is back again. Six Flags Great Adventures will make a killing thanks to Crony Island. No, that's not a typo. Yes, it is. Crony Island, the People's Playground. I just talked to my cousin over the Labor Day weekend, and she and her daughter went to Coney Island. And I had texted her. I said, do me a favor. Check, what are the prices out there on a Labor Day weekend? And she told me still $75 and $45 for kids. And I asked her, I says, well, are they busy? Mostly tourists. Not that busy, mostly tourists. Went to Dino's next door and had some great fun and only had to pay for the rides. Plain simple. Luna Park, you screwed up. You screwed up with the people. And you said, well, we were trying to contain the people. Bullshit. You were trying to make extra money. You already overcharged on the food and on the games. Now you're gonna take a killing on entry fees. It was $75. Great Adventure, and like Vegas said, Great Adventure was charging $60 for a year pass. It paid itself on 2 visits. Just 2 visits. Goes to show you. Thank you again, Vegas Martin. Chris Nolan back again. On the same thing. I heard today that Retro Crush has partnered with Redbox streaming services for their anime content 24 hours a day there. Yeah, supposedly all these minor companies have been jumping in and trying to take a little bit of Retro Crush. We heard NBC Peacock has it on there. But if you go to the Retro Crush site, it's already free. You don't even need to go to Redbox or anybody else. And in fact, from what I've seen recently off the Retro Crush site, I don't know if it's across the board on there. When you go to the site, there's already video playing in there, sort of like a live video, like a broadcast channel. So they are making changes because of the fans on there. And like I said, you could download this onto your phone and send it to your Chromecast or your Amazon or stuff like that right into your TV. There's no need for these third-party companies. Thank you again, Chris. Ernetti on the Dark Shadow series cancellation from a while back. This is so disappointing. Disappointing, yes. Glad it happened. I'm sure because if you look at the Powerpuff Girl series that they're trying to do on CW, not going to do very well. And finally, Mischief Maker Studios. Kevin Smith didn't ruin anything. I just finished watching the series, and it might be one of the few who enjoyed it. I did enjoy the series, but I can't wait to see season 2. Mischief There's no problem if you like the show. We don't have any problems if someone likes the show. We're not here to discourage you from seeing the show. What we're telling you is that the programming that they are making is not the original as they claimed it is, that it's not a show about He-Man, that Teela is the main character of the show. If they would have came across and said, hey, this is a Teela movie or TV series, you would have seen less slapback on that. Because we knew from the original series, Teela is the daughter of the sorceress. We expected them to expand her storyline itself. Not to the point where they're doing this. This would have not been accepted even if they told us it was Teela. But if they did an actual true Teela story, I think it would have been better accepted. And if they would have kept the lies to be zero, and say, well, it is, and this, and this, and that, when you have Mattel only owning 75% of the product, and 25% is not available to them because of the deal they have with the new owners of Filmations, which is DreamWorks and Universal. You have to remember, they take over the whole kit and caboodle. They get the rest of it in 2 years now. Think about that for a minute. But like I said, Mischief, if you enjoyed it, that's fine. You want to see season 2, that's fine. I'm not stopping you from that. Go right ahead. Thank you again, Mischief Maker Studios, and thank you to all who have commented. We have more comments coming in next week. And, you know, hopefully we'll be caught up by either next week or the week after. Thank you again. And you may ask yourself, well, how can I comment? Very simple. Go down below there. You'll see the comments line. Type in whatever you want in there. Be civil. Keep the language to the minimum. No spamming, please. You know, YouTube has removed so many spammers off my site alone. We've been getting a lot of porn spam. And that is ridiculous in itself. You know, we try to keep that off as much as possible. You know, and literally we know that they're spamming because the accounts were made the day of. It's not something that someone's been there for a couple of years now. You can tell these are new accounts. But like I said, just go down the comments line, whether you're on Odyssey, whether you're on BitChute, whether you're on YouTube, just sign right on in and let me know how you are feeling. And once again, thank you to those who have subscribed, liked, and shared this video. And remember, hit that notification bell, switch it to all, and wait a minute. Have we forgotten something? Yes, we have forgotten something. What's on tomorrow night on MeTV? Let's check in with Svengoolie and MeTV. And what is the movie of the week?
This week on Svengoolie,
a woman overfull with fantasies of terror, stimulating young girls beyond any reasonable control, piercing the earth's crust to make black magic with the blood of Dracula. Transforming a young girl's love into terrifying bloodlust.
Symptoms are identical. 2 incisions of the jugular vein.
Was the killer human or animal?
Dracula.
Saturday at 8, 7 Central on MeTV.
Yes, that's right. It's the 1957 movie Blood of Dracula, starring Sandra Harris, Gail Gainley, Thomas Brown Henry, and Louise Lewis. I have not seen this yet. As you see from the trailer, it's probably remastered by now. It's an old movie. Unusual and strange on there, I would have to say. Just to give you a brief synopsis, Nancy Perkins is a sweet but perturbed teenager who is sent to a girls' boarding school for guidance. There, she unwittingly becomes the subject of a monstrous experiment at the hands of her teacher, Miss Branding, that blends a modern hypnosis techniques with an ancient black magic. The twisted process turns Nancy confused and burgeoning feelings into a sexual bloodlust, transforming into a vicious vampire who remembers nothing when she turns back to human form. Sounds similar to another movie we've seen that Svengoolie has played before. Can't think of it at the moment. Might have it on the next one on there. But that is the Svengoolie movie of the week. MeTV, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on your local MeTV. Don't forget, if you need help finding where MeTV is, check out MeTV.com, where basically you'll know where you could find it. If you don't have it on your cable service, get yourself an antenna. I would suggest check with the YouTuber Antenna Man. He has a great video discussing what antennas you should get and stay away from, especially if they say 4K ready on the box. Note and understand this: there is no broadcaster out there other than some test broadcasters that are testing the units for that, but you would not receive it that they're broadcasting in 4K. There is a system that's going to increase the quality of there. It is still being rolled out. It's going to take years, and some of the equipment is going to change. Understand that it's not going to be probably the same equipment on there. You might need a converter box as well. So for you to buy an antenna that says 4K ready, you're jumping the gun too soon. And I've seen this on a lot of the Svengoolie chat rooms and I've mentioned this to a lot of people in the Svengoolie chat rooms on Facebook, that basically check out Antenna Man. Looked up because I've seen that they said, I can't get MeTV. It's missing from the antenna, stuff like that. And I told them, I said, your antenna may not be strong enough, or you don't know exactly where you need to point the antenna. Find out where the broadcasters are and basically point your antenna in that direction. If you cannot receive it, that means another channel which is sharing that same frequency is blocking it, or you don't have the distance from your antenna. The antenna you have doesn't have the distance to the transmission tower. So you'll have to get something with a greater length of frequency. So do check out Antenna Man. It sounds like it's typed as it sounds, Antenna Man, on YouTube. He's got some great videos on there. I would love to talk to him. Maybe we could try to get him on Saturday pre-flight. We'll see what we can do for you on there. So we've reached the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have more shows on the way. We got another great show next week. Next week, we're going to be delving into another director, just like this week, with two of his movies, one for the main concept and the other one for Off My Shelf. And the first movie, it's actually both movies are great. One is a thriller, the other one is a science fiction. It is from the black and white era. Here's a bit of a trailer of what's coming up next week.
Ach, Mutti, ich bin dir entgegengelaufen.
Aber Kind, das sollst du doch nicht. Du weißt doch warum.
If you haven't guessed on there, it is a great movie. Highly criticized for its content, but very well done. It's a must-see. The acting is very good. The camera shots are excellent, just like our first week when we discussed The Third Man. This is the things that we're going to be doing, and this is our first step into getting into the Halloween time period. And after that, we got some great other titles coming here on Saturday pre-flight. So once again, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share, go to that notification bell, hit all so you get all of our notifications. We will be back again here 10 p.m. Eastern on your social media platforms of YouTube, BitChute, later on Odyssey. Don't forget to check out our merch store at shopqtocast.com, where we got some great shirts out there. We will see you on the next one. Be sure to stay tuned there for a little bit. We have a little bit more information on some of the videos you saw today, and the movies that you saw today. Be sure to check that out. Thank you again, and bye-bye.